At this moment, United States Coast Guard cutters are running dark and using night vision cameras to patrol the water around Puerto Rico.
Why should we care? Well, because the same high-tech procedures being tested there will likely be implemented right off our coast and soon.
News Channel 5's Tim Malloy is back from Puerto Rico with the story. Tim?
Jim and Kelly, thank you. This is a side of the immigration story and a side of the anti-terrorism story that is not often told. I spent a day in Puerto Rico and a night on a humanitarian effort that is also a deadly serious law enforcement mission.
It's just over 1,000 miles from West Palm Beach to a turbulent passage between Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. We're on our way to the Mona Pass and the uninhabited islands the U.S. Coast Guard has targeted for an experimental interdiction mission. They're looking for everything from marijuana to a nuclear weapon. No border guards, no fences, no visible geographical lines of demarcation. For the smugglers, it's a race along wave tops to get feet on sand and money in their pockets. Sometimes at I-95 speed, sometimes slow and stealthy. And they just keep coming. You're looking at the seaborne line of defense against a rarely reported immigration nightmare. The Coast Guard cutter Chincoteague, guarding the back door into the U.S.
And we come left to course 085.
Policing the turgid channel through which human traffickers at great risk to their passengers try to squeeze Cubans and Dominicans and Haitians and increasing numbers Chinese into the United States.
These people, these smugglers, they don't care about these people. They don't care about getting them an extra, a better shot at life. They care about getting their $3,000.
For the four cutters working off the Puerto Rican coastline, it's been a costly treadmill of picking up immigrants at sea, then taking them home. A veteran says duty can't help but mingle with sympathy.
The conditions on these boats, I'll describe them to you, but they're incomprehensible because a 25-foot boat might have 50 people on it.
Most of the migrants are harmless and helpless. Most of them.
But what if there was a way to identify major drug smugglers, or far more importantly, terrorists, immediately and from at sea? Find out who they are, where they're going, what the target might be. I've been invited along on a mission from here in southwestern Puerto Rico that does exactly that.
Cutter Chincoteague, this is Sector San Juan. Sector San Juan, Cutter CC, roger. We are
16 crew members on board, 4 hours on, 4 hours off, a 24-hour rotation. The sun dips over the Dominican Republic 50 miles to the west, and the interdiction mission begins. The 110-foot cutter goes dark as we creep around Mona Island.
There's no lights on the outside of the ship, all the windows are covered. As you've seen on the bridge, we have all of our electronics in red light or with the screen over them to help them come down, just to make sure that we're as low visibility as possible.
Below, the cameras are trained on the steep cliffs and caves of Mona Island, where smugglers guide their yolas, or refugee boats.
This is Mona Island.
You're able to zoom in on the cliff face.
This isn't where they would go ashore, but they sometimes follow the shoreline in. So we're just scanning as we drive by.
On a recent blustery night, a leaking boat is spotted. Seasick, exhausted, terrified, and hungry, these 24 Dominicans, promised passage to the U.S., are arrested. The Coast Guard is the only branch of the U.S. military that can make arrests. For all their effort and all their risk and lost cash, these people will be dropped off on the Dominican coast. Dawn comes after a rocky, humid night, and we look for drug smugglers.
Mona Island isn't much to look at, 6 miles by 4 miles and sheer rock climb to get on the island. But to anybody trying to get to the United States, any immigrant, it is nirvana, because once you've set your feet on Mona Island, you've set your feet on Puerto Rico. That means you're in the United States. Next stop is Miami.
I've been invited along on a high-tech experiment that could soon make Florida's inviting coast less accessible and safer. If I were a smuggler or terrorist pulled out of a boat, the routine pat-down would be followed by fingerprinting, and then a photo.
Bring it out, take it to my computer on board that has a satellite connection, and I send all the information over.
That information leaps from the cutter to a satellite, to Homeland Security and their database.
From the moment we send the file out to U.S. Visit, and it comes back within 6-7 minutes.
If a red flag goes up, the sidearms and the zip tie handcuffs come out.
And we're catching the bad guys, and we're making it harder for them because we get these people that are really experienced, and because we keep catching them, then now we're prosecuting them. and we're able to get them out of the system.
We're actually trying to capture the masters and prosecute the masters because they're dealing in, you could almost call it slavery. They're entrapping these people either with the opportunity to come to America and taking all their money and then putting them under horrendous conditions just to get here. And but those are the people that we are stopping.
It's real-world practice for the flood of refugees who may opt for Puerto Rico rather than the U.S. coast when Castro dies, and real-world implementation of a directive to protect the U.S. coastline from terrorists who may approach by southerly routes to target our ports.
Coast Guard tells us the word is now out that IDs are being sent on the spot from the cutters to the Justice Department, and that drug and human traffickers are now steering clear of certain routes. You can expect to see biometrics off our coast in a matter of months. Kelly.